The NFL season is finally here, and it's time to predict the New York Jets record. What's going on, guys? Josh Byrne, the New York sports fan, and after a long, tumultuous, dramatic-filled offseason, the NFL season is finally here, and the Jets are one of, if not the most hyped up teams in football. So it's finally time to predict their final record. I'm going to go through it game by game, and let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy? Am I too pessimistic, too optimistic, or am I right there in that perfect middle ground for where I see the New York Jets winding up this season? First off, we got Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. Man, I am not going to lie, as a Jets fan, I'm extremely nervous for this game. Yes, Buffalo may have taken a step back. They got another year older with a lot of their players in the secondary. Jordan Poyer, Matt Milano as a linebacker. Von Miller, of course, a big story there as he is not going to play in this game. And the Bills do have some questions on their offensive line, but so do the Jets, and I still think the Bills have a really good defense. I think the Bills kind of have the quarterback edge right now because I think there's legitimate questions to what Aaron Rodgers does this season coming off of the worst year of his career. And even if Aaron Rodgers does play well, I think if he's going to struggle, it's going to be in the early part of the season. The Jets open up with a very tough schedule, a lot of good teams, and let's be honest, it's probably going to take a little bit of time for Rodgers to settle in and adjust to the new personnel he has around him. He has some familiar faces, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, to name a couple, but, he hasn't played with this offensive line before, and even though, Garrett Wilson is likely to have a great season, he still hasn't fully developed that chemistry with him just quite yet. So all of this is to say I have my doubts. But at the same time, I do think that the Jets are good enough to split with the Bills. They split with them last year, and if they're going to split with them again this year, it's likely going to come with a win at home and a loss on the road. So I think there's going to be plenty of hype and energy in MetLife Stadium. And with the Jets being fully healthy, literally having no major injuries coming into this game, I do think the Jets are going to edge out this one in a very, very tight game. I could definitely see it coming down to a last-second field goal, but I'm going to say the Jets take this first matchup against the Bills at home in Week 1 and set the tone, hopefully, for a very strong season. Now, moving on, Week 2, the first road matchup for the Jets, and it's against America's team, arguably, the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys are always the subject of a lot of hype and ridicule just because they are amongst, if not the most popular team in football by amount of fans. And also, their quarterback, Dak Prescott, like Aaron Rodgers, he's coming off of a down year. The Cowboys traded for Trey Lance. That sparked a lot of skepticism about what the Cowboys truly think of Dak Prescott. Frankly, I don't really think it's a real danger to Dak's current status as the starter. I think Trey Lance is a developmental project, but that withstanding, the fact is the Cowboys have a lot of pressure on them to perform this year, a lot of pressure on Mike McCarthy, no doubt about it, and there's a lot of talent on that roster. There is a ton of talent. I mean, Trayvon Diggs, you got Micah Parsons, they have absolute playmakers on that defense, no doubt about it. And the offense is arguably even more impressive with the likes of CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup coming back. They got Tony Pollard now in the mix to be the running back one after Ezekiel Elliott kind of flamed out over the past couple years. And an offensive line that should be a strength for them. So this isn't going to be an easy game by any means for the Jets, but I do think that, honestly, I think the Jets will pull this one out because I think the Jets defense is going to be able to contain Dallas's offense, and I think that the Jets will do just enough offensively to get the win in Jerry World, and so I have the Jets starting 2-0 on the season. Week 3, Jets hosting the Patriots. Big story here, the Jets have not beaten the Patriots in almost a decade, since December of 2015, and I think Jets fans, we remember that game pretty vividly. The Eric Decker touchdown in overtime, it was so hype. It was an amazing moment. And it's about time that the Jets actually beat the Patriots. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it at home. So I'm picking the Jets here, 3-0. Now, you might be saying to yourself, geez, this guy's really a homer. He's got the Jets starting 3-0, and maybe I am. But I think if they get past the Bills week 1, I do feel very, very confident they can beat the Cowboys and then the Patriots. Patriots still have a solid team. They might have the best offensive line in the AFC East, and they still have a really good defense. But I don't trust Mac Jones to put up enough points against the Jets defense to keep up with what I think Aaron Rodgers can do against the Patriots, which is basically put up, at least 20 points. And losing those 2 games to the Patriots last year was probably the swing that ultimately led the Jets to not making the playoffs, because those were 2 very winnable games, and those were 2 games in which the Jets offense absolutely could not move the ball to save their life. So even if Aaron Rodgers isn't in his peak form, I believe he will be able to do enough against the Patriots to win those games if it is a defensive slugfest. I think he is enough of an upgrade to make just that much of a difference and get the Jets over the hump in that scenario. Week 4, Jets hosting the Chiefs. This is the first loss I have for the Jets. I don't see them starting off 4-0. I just think in this situation, I already have them at 3-0. It's tough to envision 4-0. I mean, that would just be utterly ridiculous. And the Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champions. They have the best quarterback in the world by far. And they do have some talent on that defense. I do like the fact that the Jets are home for that one. But I can't pick the Jets to win every game. I have them falling against the Chiefs. If they're going to lose to anybody, there's no shame in losing to the Chiefs. Week 5, Jets at Broncos. Of course, the big story in this one is the fact that Sean Payton made those really lowball comments about Nathaniel Hackett, saying that it was the worst coaching job of all time, and really getting under the skin of a lot of Jets players and coaches. And that's definitely going to be a story that is brought back out into the spotlight heading into this matchup. And I don't think it's going to be an easy matchup for the Jets. I think that the Broncos defense has a lot of skill, has a lot of talent. They're also going to be at home, and that is a very tough place to play in Denver. But I got to back up my boys. I got to back up Nathaniel Hackett. And I think Sean Payton is a little bit of a tool. So I'm going to say, for that reason, if anything else, I think the Jets are going to win it. I think it's going to be a close game. But I'm not sure if Russell Wilson and that Broncos offense is going to perform the way that a lot of people are hoping they will. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but I think the Jets will have just enough in this game to pull out the W. So here we go. Week 6, Jets hosting the Eagles. The Jets have never defeated the Eagles in their entire history in the regular season. I believe they've beaten them in the preseason, for what that's worth, which is next to nothing. And I don't see that changing, unfortunately, in this one. I think the Eagles are the best team in the National Football League. They're the most well-rounded. They have an elite defense, an elite offense, and a great quarterback. And I think, without doubt, they're just the most talented team in football. And, like the Chiefs, this is another team that is the defending champion of their conference. And I think that the Eagles are on the fast track to go right back to the Super Bowl. So we'll see. And yeah, I think the Jets are going to drop this one. So following a bye week, the Jets are the road team playing their crosstown counterparts, the New York Giants. The Giants, they're being predicted to finish all over the place. Some people have them taking a step back and finishing with only 6 or 7 wins, while others are very high on them, and they think they can build upon what they did last year, which was win 9 games and make the wild card. And I don't know if they're going to have a better record than they did last year, because I think their schedule is more difficult this season. But I do think in a weaker NFC, I do think the Giants will return to the playoffs, spoiler alert, and I do think they will repeat their win total from last year of 9 games. So this isn't going to be easy for the Jets at all, but I think they do have more talent. I don't know if the Giants are really going to have a home field advantage. I think it's going to be close to 50-50 in terms of fans. I'm sure there'll be slightly more Giants fans just because it's a Giants home game. But I think the Jets, they won't have to travel anywhere. They're coming off a bye. They'll be well rested. And I think they are a slightly better team than the Giants, so I got them winning this one technically on the road against the New York Giants. Week 9 we're in. Jets host the LA Chargers. Chargers are a really good team. They got a great quarterback. I would actually give them the edge at the quarterback position in this game. But defensively, I think there's some question marks. I think the Chargers' offensive line has some question marks as well. The Chargers will also be the road team for this game. I think that's a big deal here because if the Jets were on the road and they had to travel across the country to face the Chargers, I'd probably give the edge to the Chargers. But because the Jets do not have to travel across the country, I think that will be enough to give the Jets the edge in this game. It will be a Monday night game. Aaron Rodgers loves Monday night football. So I think the Jets are going to win this one and improve to 6-2 on the season. Week 10, Jets traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders. This could be a spoiler alert game. The Raiders are not viewed as a very good team by many. I mean, they have no doubt about it. Some of the best talent on offense in the league. Jimmy Garoppolo, solid quarterback, nothing to write home about. Certainly not elite, but he also has elite playmakers around him. He's got Devontae Adams, perhaps the best receiver in football. Definitely on the trade market in some reporters' eyes. He's been rumored to be available and perhaps moved by the trade deadline, but assuming Devontae Adams is still there, they got another great player in Josh Jacobs, and they signed Jacoby Myers over the offseason. I could see the Jets defense actually struggling in this one, and perhaps leading this to be a very high-score game, because while I do have faith in the Raiders' offense, I don't have faith in the Raiders' defense. And with all that being said, I think the Jets are going to win a very close game, a closer game than people think, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout that the Jets win probably 38-31, something like that. But nonetheless, I do have them winning that game and advancing to 7-2. All right, the next week, the Jets travel to Buffalo in Week 11. I can't do math. Week 11, yeah, I said it at the top of this video when predicting Week 1. I think the Jets are going to split with Buffalo. I think the Jets are going to take the one that they play in their house and lose the one in Buffalo. This would be the one that they lose in Buffalo against the Bills. I think the Bills need to be respected. They're still a really, really good football team, and that is not ever going to be an easy place to play. Even when the Bills haven't been good, the Jets have always struggled there in Buffalo. Just not an easy place to play. It'll also be later in the season. Weather could be a factor. And certainly Aaron Rodgers is used to playing in less than ideal weather conditions, but at the same time, I think the Bills are going to be motivated in this game to seek revenge on losing to the Jets Week 1. So I think the Bills take this one probably like 27-24. Close game again. But I do think the Jets will lose at least one game to the Bills. Now in Week 12, the Jets host the Dolphins. Dolphins really, really hyped up team. A big reason for why people feel like the AFC East could be the best division in football is because the Jets and Bills, we know that they're supposed to be good, and the Dolphins, they made the playoffs last year. They added Jalen Ramsey, who unfortunately is going to be out for a while, but perhaps he could be playing for this game potentially. And, if Tua stays healthy, then there's no reason they can't be a top 5 offense. Of course, that's a big if, but they've certainly got a lot of talent. But I'm going to give the edge to the Jets for a couple reasons. Number one, in this tilt, they're going to be at home. Number two, I think the Jets have a better defense. Even if Jalen Ramsey is in there, he hasn't exactly performed up to what is expected of him the past year or so. Xavier Howard, same thing, really. There's rumors that potentially he's falling off a bit. He's still a really good player, but, it's tough to perform up to that elite level for so long. And I think the Jets can do enough. If anything, I think they can run the ball down Miami's throats, and I think they're going to win this game at home in Week 12. So this puts the Jets at 8-3 right now. 8-3. That's the best start the Jets have had since probably 2010, if it were to happen like that. I mean, obviously not a lot of winning seasons since that happened, really just the one in 2015. But man, can you imagine if this actually happens? I would definitely sign up for it, and I'm expecting it to happen. Evidently, I have very, very high expectations for this New York Jets team. In Week 13, they host the Falcons. You know, a game that on paper you look at it, Jets should obviously win this game. I expect them to win this game, but I think the Falcons could be a very tough team this year. I think they got plenty of talent offensively. If Desmond Ridder can figure it out, then they certainly have a solid team on their hands. And being in a really weak division in the NFC South, they could potentially make the playoffs. But the Jets are going to be at home. And that's one thing I'm noticing about this Jets schedule is that, you know, while it is difficult, it is also going to be the easiest schedule in the AFC East because the Jets finished last year. So everybody in the AFC East is going to have a difficult schedule, but they're all going to be slightly more difficult than the Jets, probably with just these other games that they play outside of the division and whether they're home or road. It works out most in the Jets' favor because that's how the schedule makers do it, man. It's based on results from the prior season. And Week 14 now, the Jets host the Texans. So this is what I'm saying. The early part of the Jets season is clearly going to be the most challenging. They're going to face the toughest competition. If they can get through that with a solid record, with a winning record, then this team is going places. Because the second half, that, you know, it is a different story. I don't want to say that it's going to be an incredibly easy cakewalk of a schedule because things never really play out the way you expect them to in the NFL, and teams that you think are going to be great sometimes disappoint and vice versa. But, you know, on paper, man, you look at this second half, and I'm pretty confident it's going to be, you know, less fierce than the first half of the season. So Week 14 continues that trend, and the Jets are hosting the Texans. This might be the one I feel greatest about all season. I think the Texans are going in the right direction as an organization, but I don't think they're winning more than 4 games this year, and I don't think one of those 4 wins is going to come against the Jets. So I have them taking that, improving to 10-3. Week 15 now, Jets at Dolphins. I do think the Dolphins will take this game. I think the Dolphins are extremely talented, and I think being at home, you know, will make a difference. And hopefully by that point, you know, Jalen Ramsey, that Dolphins defense will be at full strength. Of course, I always want my teams to play the competition at full strength. I just think it's the best product on the field. And if my team were to win that game, then it gives me, you know, most room to feel confident about if I know that they beat the team with all hands on deck. And in this case, I don't see the Jets sweeping the Bills or the Dolphins. I think it's going to be close with both of those teams. I think both of those teams are very good, and I think they're going to split with both of them, and I think it's going to come down to home road, and in this case, the Jets are on the road, so I have them falling to the Dolphins in Week 15. Now Week 16, Jets hosting the Washington Commanders. Commanders have a really good defense. Chase Young can stay healthy, then they could definitely have a solid pass rush. And I think it really just comes down to the quarterback play of the Commanders because they have a solid running back room with Robinson, and they have solid receivers, Terry McLaurin. If Sam Howell can be a solid answer at quarterback, then they could potentially make a push for a playoff spot in the NFC. But ultimately, I don't expect Howell to really do exceedingly well this year, and I think the Jets are going to win this game, especially being at home. This is one that they should definitely take care of business in, and the Jets improve to 11-4. Week 17, Jets at Browns. I'm very high on the Browns this year. I actually think that they could be a playoff team. I think they have loads of talent, offense, defense. I think Deshaun Watson may not be as good as he was a few years ago, but I certainly think he's going to be an improvement upon what he displayed last year, you know, entering the season after being suspended for the first 10-plus weeks. I think it's going to be a different Deshaun Watson this season. I think he's going to be better. I think their defense is still really good, and Cleveland is not an easy place to play in, so I actually think the Jets fall here to the Browns in Week 17. Week 18, final game of the season, Jets at Patriots. You know, I already have the Jets beating the Patriots once. I kind of feel like the Patriots are going to stick it to us just one more time. There's a good chance that this game is going to decide the division. If the Jets win it, they could very well be the AFC East champions. And let's be honest, if this scenario were to come to fruition, where if the Jets needed to beat the Patriots on the road Week 18 to win the division, I think the Patriots are going to win. That could be my cynical nature as a Jets fan, but I think Bill Belichick, regardless of whether the Patriots have anything to play for at this point, which I don't think they will, I think they will muscle up the motivation to sabotage what is otherwise looking like a good Jets season, and I think they will defeat the Jets in that Week 18 game on the road. So I have the Jets finishing at 11-6, and ultimately, I think this is going to be good enough for a wild card, but I think the Jets fall just short of winning the AFC East. I think the Bills will win the AFC East for the fourth consecutive season. I certainly think the Jets have a good shot of winning the division, but right now, I think it's just too evenly matched between those two rosters, and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the team that's done it the past few years. You know, I tried to keep these predictions as unbiased as possible, and my unbiased prediction for the Jets is 11-6, a wild card appearance. And as far as the playoffs go, I think the Jets are going to win the wild card round. I think they're going to play probably the Jaguars in the wild card round. I think the Jaguars are going to build off of what they did last year, or at least repeat as AFC South champions. And I think the Jets are going to win that game on the road. And then in the divisional round, I do have the Jets matching up against the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. And in that one on the road, I do have the Jets falling to the Bengals. You know, ultimately, in my eyes, the most realistic way the Jets win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years is the following year. I think they potentially will have a greater chance to do so. Next year, they'll have another draft. They'll have maybe a better wide receiver room, maybe a better offensive line room next year. Rodgers will be a full year in. He'll be more nestled into this offense, and I still think he has a couple good years left in him. So I actually think the Jets will have a better shot of winning it all next year. And it's tough for me to predict that the Jets go from 7-10 and missing the playoffs last year to just outright winning the Super Bowl this year. I can't say it with a straight face that I predict that to happen. I certainly hope that happens, and I certainly think they have a solid shot of contending for a Super Bowl this year, but the most realistic outcome in my eyes is 11 wins, wild card appearance, winning one playoff game, and then falling in the divisional round. So that may sound disappointing to some, but let's be honest, if that happens, man, I would certainly be somewhat proud of that outcome. It would be the first time the Jets will have made the playoffs in 13 years, and it certainly gives them a lot to build on going into the 2024 season. So let me know what you guys think of my predictions below. Do you think the Jets will finish worse than that, better than that, or right there where what I'm saying, 11 wins wild card? Of course, folks, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe to the New York Sports Fan, and as always, all the love.